Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. I'm your host, Therese Tucker. And what can I say except the energy, as always, continues to ramp up on us. For example, today, right now, as I'm talking to you, we have a major X-class flare happening, which means you're going to be feeling it because this energy means there's a huge blast of photons and plasma coming from the sun that's helping us to upgrade our ascension while it messes with radio waves and GPS signals and all the other geomagnetic stuff that happens on this planet. It's also helping us transition into crystalline plasma based beings, and we are well underway. Like I've said to you before, and if you listen to the Modern Mystic Soul podcast, then you've heard me channel the Arcturians who are detailing what's happening and how it's happening and how we are progressing as we're going through that. So if you haven't heard those episodes, I highly recommend checking out my Modern Mystic Soul podcast, which you can find on every podcast streaming platform. But let's talk about the energy again. So we've got this major X-class flare that's happening right now as I'm recording. So by the time you see it, you will be one of two groups. There's usually those who feel it incoming and those who feel it after the Earth has absorbed it. So let's see, today is Wednesday, the 21st of February. And on this day, if you're having a lot of weird physical symptoms, maybe excessively tired, maybe having a lot of anxiety or just stuff coming up for you. Like I said, a lot of physical symptoms with this one seems to be coming through. The body is releasing stored memory, stored feelings, things that we need to process and let go of. They're being released now, and that sometimes can come up as sort of physical discomfort and pain, I've noticed. So if you're feeling it now, then you're part of that atmospheric group who sort of feels the impact of it as it comes in. If you feel it a few days later when the Earth has fully absorbed that energy and starts re-releasing it, then you're part of that group who's really anchored and in tune with the Earth and just going along with that electromagnetic energy as it's being released out into our own energy field. So more intense energy has been coming in. Then we've got, to wrap it up this week, the second full moon of 2024 is happening on February 24th. Saturday, February 24th is the full moon in Virgo coming in, bringing in a lot of cosmic codes and information. And that is very much a moon sign that would deal with a type of sort of emotional cleanup. Virgo rules the 6th house. That has to do with how we do work and also our own health. And so it's that balance between what we're giving others and what we're giving to ourselves. And so it's also a sign of, like, I would call it a housekeeping kind of sign, only because it's so good at clearing away anything that's excessive or unnecessary and getting right to the point, getting things streamlined, getting things working effectively. And I really feel like that's what the energy is doing for us now. By the way, there is a full moon spirit circle happening on February 24th, 6 p.m. Pacific time. If you'd like to join us, here is the link. I will also put it in the description below, where I can give you more information about the messages from the cosmos at this time as they're coming up through this particular lunation, as well as processes to help you let go. And guided meditation. A lot of times that's when the messages from the Arcturians come through. So if you want to be there for that live, check out the Spirit Circle link. This is our 8th year. I'm so excited. In fact, I'll be talking about that on the Modern Mystic Soul podcast coming up, and how to work with the moon, particularly around manifesting. So if that looks like something that would be enjoyable or in alignment with you, check out the link and come join us. So needless to say, we are well underway for transformation. We're not at the beginning of making a transformation. We're deep inside of it, where parts of us have fully transformed and moved on to a more multidimensional, multi-layered self. As we're moving up in frequency, we are changing on a genetic level as well. I've talked about this, about how we're moving from a carbon-based being to this crystalline plasma being. And this crystalline plasma, The best way that I can describe it, so it represents the light body. And if you are familiar with that term, I think it's used in a lot of Tibetan information, like a lot of their spiritual information will talk about the light body. Uh, Ascended masters like Jesus and Buddha have all moved into a light body form. But here's what they did that was different to what we're doing. At the time, the earth could not support a fully transitioning body from one density to another. So both of those ascended masters had to pass from their physical carbon-based form in order to move into their light body. What we are attempting at this time, what makes this time so different, because it truly has not ever happened on this planet before. And I'm not even sure if it's happened within the universe yet. I need to check in with my team on that. They say no, it has not happened yet. So we're a major focal point for the universe. We are very much being watched as we go through this process. But what makes us different is that instead of having to die to transform into our crystalline light body, we are transmuting and changing our structural form into a crystalline plasma light body. And the best way to think about this is you would be able to move from a solid state in this form to a non-solid state, or a soft hologram, which would be that translucent, almost, okay, so think of a soft hologram, well, like a hologram, right? So a soft hologram is a hologram that we understand. Like you could put your hand through it, you could see it, but you could put your hand through it. That's a soft hologram. And then also move into what's called a hard hologram, which would be a projection that is so solid feeling, you could literally touch it and feel it. So spirit can do this. We can do this in our non-physical state. This is not something that's never been done. Jesus and Buddha both did it, but they had to pass their carbon body over and then move into their plasma crystalline light bodies. We are undergoing a process through this ascension where cell by cell, through our DNA, through our genetics, through every nuclei of every cell, we are turning it a little at a time from this carbon form into this crystalline plasma form. So we're trying to take our body with us, which is something that the planet couldn't support before because it was not at a high enough density itself. Now our planet does support it. The planet has already transcended herself. So she can now support life all the way up to 5D. So that's what we're going through right now. That's what's happening. That's why we're having these weird aches and pains and discomfort. And I joke that it's like we are the X-Men, right? Because technically it's a field of radiation that we've moved into that's allowing this to help us transform. But we're so taught that radiation is so toxic. And of course, at certain levels, of course it is. So we are getting dosed regularly, but they're more like nano doses that are increasing. So it's like going from a nano dose to a micro dose to a mini dose to, so up and up, just only enough to help us transform without frying the circuits. And this is why we also see waves of people leave the planet at a certain time, because not every body wants to go through this process. So people sort of know on an internal and intrinsic level how far they're willing to go. And if they don't want to do this transformation because it's not comfortable, it's tolerable, but it's not always comfortable. I mean, if you've been getting like the sharp ringing in your ears, or my favorite, which means it was not my favorite, was the ice pick to the crown chakra. So like your crown chakra being burst open, kind of feelings coming through, joint pains, aches, weird body pains that come and go, the waves of anxiety or being unable to sleep, to being so exhausted, to feeling like you're floating outside of your body. All of that is coming with this transformation. It's new. So we're being watched and monitored as we go through this. And the process is either sped up or slowed down to make sure it can accommodate this change. And it can be a little exhausting. And I think that a lot of people who resonate with the term starseed or light worker might be feeling that exhaustion now. Like, we've been aware of this for a while, and we've been going through it for a while. And I think that in the beginning, when you're aware of it, you're just so excited about it that it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's the fact that it's happening. It's the fact that you understand and that you know, and there's this excitement about the period that we're in. Like, oh my God, I can't believe we get to be here to go through this. And then as time wears on, and as your patience wears thin, and as you feel a little exhausted through the process of, so is this going to get worse or is it going to get better? Because it looks like it's getting worse, but when I tune in, I feel like, no, it's getting better. That sort of exhausts us, and it takes away from the magic. And that's what my team wants to talk about today, is this feeling of like, this, when we're getting so exhausted and we feel like we're being taken out of the magic, the next thing that happens is we get really analytical with the process, right? We really try to pinpoint what's going on. And I think the need to get analytical or break it apart or understand how it works must come from a need to control, because it's not going the way I would prefer it to go, right? I mean, how many of you are at that point where you're just like, can we get on with it now? Like, can we? Because you're so over this process that feels like it just is taking forever and nothing looks better yet. And I think that's the hardest part of it. So I've gotten this message from my team for the last 24 hours, and I really feel like one part of this came from a dream, so they must have been talking to me. But the message is sort of along the lines of, try to enjoy the magic rather than try to dissect the magic, right? You lose something in trying to pick it apart to understand how it works. And the dream I had was something about like being at a magic show, the kind of magic show where it's like you pull the rabbit out of the hat. And they were like, be the one who is in awe and wonder and enjoying the show rather than trying to pick apart each trick and say, I know how that works. This is how it operates. Like trying to dissolve the illusion, which feels so contradictory when I say that out loud, because I feel like, aren't we here to sort of like disillusion the illusion? Aren't we here to sort of break that apart, or recognize at least that we're in an illusion? And my team says, yeah, you can. It's not about deluding yourself into thinking this illusion is real. It's more like, I know it's an illusion. Think of it like a video game. That's the best way to think about it, right? That's what they're saying. The video game is a video game, but you're still enjoying it. You're still having fun playing it. You're still sort of investing in the journey of the game, even though you're highly aware that this is just a game. And they're saying, bring that kind of energy back into the process, because when it gets heavy, you are missing some of the childlike wonder and the fun of it, which is a necessary part of the process. Otherwise, it wouldn't be acknowledged. And it is acknowledged. Like through ancient times, even in the Bible, I think it says, be like that of a child to enter the gates of heaven. Don't quote me on that, because I don't have the exact quote, but I believe that's the gist of the quote. Be like a child to enter the gates of heaven. Basically, be in awe, be in wonder, be in full trust of the universe, right? Believe in the magic. Allow yourself to enjoy this process, even fun, right? If we look at astrology, the fifth house is the fun house. It talks about fun, and that's where the childlike wonder exists, and that's connected to the heart. And so in order to get into our heart, we need to be open to the magic of the situation. We can really try to pick this apart and try to understand the process, but at the same time, something truly magical is happening that cannot be known. And there's going to be a lot of this process that cannot be known, because to know it would be to know the mind of source. And we're only but a part of source. So to know the whole process would be to know the whole mind of source, which cannot be known. So rather than trying to struggle and get it, or make your quest to fully know the mind of source, I would say invest in trying to know yourself, because you are a part of source, but you're a very specific part who came here at this specific time for a very specific reason and were chosen. You were aligned to be here. So rather focus in on that rather than trying to see the great mystery, because some mystery is required. It's in so many of our ancient tools, like astrology, like tarot, even our religious guides, like the Bible, like the Torah, like these types of teachings. There is a bit of mystery to it. Like, how could some people hear God, but not all of them? How could some people have direct communication with God and not all of them? Like, there is this air of what is not to be known about the process. And maybe this feels really out there, but they're just saying that it's okay to allow and enjoy what's happening. Let it unfold. The need to know how it works or why it's working or be assured is something that's coming from a place of insecurity within us, a place of a lack of faith and trust, right? So if you can feel in your heart that it actually is going to be okay, that even though this world looks crazy and upside down, it's all going to work out and right itself. So when you turn it off, when you turn off the movies and the noise and the news and all of that, and you go into your heart, you just know it's going to be okay. And you're like, I don't know how I know, I just know. That's the great mystery right there. That's us being in the moment and feeling what's really guiding us through this whole process is something so great and so fully unknowable. And this is where miracles come from. You can't break a miracle down. It's if you can, it's not a miracle anymore, but a miracle is happening, and it's happening on such a grand scale, and it's going to affect every single one of us. And it's so easy to get caught up in the drama of the video game, but we have to remember we can watch it, we can observe it, and we can know that we're sort of in it, but not a part of it, right? We're here to experience it live. It's like we got tickets to the greatest concert in the universe, or tickets to the most amazing play, and we get to be in it, like we get a featured role. But we're not going to fully understand how it operates, and we're going to realize that no matter what's happening in the play, it's still a play. So hopefully this message lands, or it makes sense. If you're in that place where you're trying to figure out where the miracle is, or what the miracle is, or how do I reverse engineer it so I can make it happen now, the team is simply saying, just chill out and recognize you're in the game. You know it's a game. It's a game. You're going to play it. You have a part to play. But you also know that you're totally safe and that things work out way better than they may appear to at this time. And you don't need to get so serious with this or turn it into something where if I don't know how this works, then I can't be invested in it. You can be highly invested in it without understanding how it works, and you can be detached from it at the same time. I know I'm talking in kind of mystical metaphors today, but that's just the message that's coming through from the team. So let's take a look at this week's karma cards and see if we can get any more clarity on this. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here. Planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in to that beautiful intuition of yours and you feel, what do you need for this week? Are you looking for action related guidance to see how things resolve, or do you want a little bit of both? And the timing for this reading is for February 21st through February 28th. and the flavor of this reading. Okay, so we have got the moon, which makes sense because the moon is almost full. It'll be full on Saturday. So this one is one to pay attention to. It means our feelings are going to be very important for how we're moving forward this week. And we got a daily double. We got two signs this week. We've got Aries and Scorpio. So we're looking at leadership, and we're also looking at that deep understanding. So what's really interesting is Aries and Scorpio both are touched by Mars, meaning that Aries is currently ruled by Mars, but was also the ancient ruler of Scorpio. So there's that kind of drive in both of these signs to dig in. Now, Aries wants to drive ahead and Scorpio wants to go deep. So we're going forward deeply. Interesting. And then look who's back. It's the first house, which happens to be ruled by Aries. This is the house that represents our self, our relationship to ourself, how we project ourself, our self-image and self-understanding. Right. So for those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to defend your willpower and the extraordinary power of prayer immediately. It's time to reinforce that faith, right? Faith, trust, and pixie dust, right? So it's time to take the power back from all this exhaustion and a little bit of fear that's creeping in. And it's just part of the energy that we're going through right now, but it just seems like some of that darker energy is sort of creeping in, or maybe just being let out to be released. But you might be noticing an increase in anxiety right now. It's time to just, again, reaffirm by checking in with your own heart what's really going on. We know what they want us to believe is going on, but really check in. Really feel in with your heart. Are things as bad as they are being projected as? And is it meant to shake you out of your grounded energy state? It's time to reestablish that grounded energy state immediately. All right, mental action at this time. Accept what you think you know about the highest and lowest aspects of the way in which you project yourself. This one I feel has to do with the shift. Okay, so what they're talking about is, first, what do you think you know about yourself? What do you think you know as your greatest attributes? What are your worst, right? First, we're going to start with what we think we know, because what's implied here, what's not said, is that there's a lot you don't know. There's a lot of you that has shifted already that you're not necessarily fully conscious of yet. And I'll give you a small example of this. Recently, I was asked what my Myers-Briggs personality type was, and I couldn't remember. It was like ENTP or something like that. I can't remember. So I went on one of those personality test sites and I took it again, and I was shocked because my personality had completely changed, and I didn't know at the time that could happen. I thought once you kind of had that locked in, it was locked in for life, but nope, it can change. And so the reason I bring that up is because I thought I knew what my type was, but after all the personal growth, after all the changes that are happening, you bet it changed. Like, it was shockingly different. I think it's now like an INFJ or something like that, which is a really rare one apparently. And when I looked into it, I'm like, that tracks. Like that makes sense. So what my point being is, like, there's a version of you that you think you are, and then there's more of you there that's, again, part of this great mystery. So first, accept what you think you know, because from there, you're going to be delightfully surprised at the new things that you didn't even realize are there yet. There's so much coming online in you. There's so much new coming through you that it's hard to track it. In fact, maybe I recommend taking one of those Myers-Briggs tests. If you've taken one before, take it again. Are you the same? Take another personality test, maybe the Enneagram, maybe it shifted. I don't know, but these things are not locked in place. That's number one. Two, I guess people do shift all the time, but you might not be aware of just how much you've shifted. And so at this point, we're just being asked, yeah, what do you think you know about yourself? What are your best qualities? What are your worst qualities? Now let's find out what else is there, because I think you're going to be actually quite delighted by what you discover. Physical action at this time, let your feelings tell you how to do it your own way and control the situation and do it on your own. So your path is going to be your path. There's nobody doing this quite like you. No one is transforming quite the same way that you are. And I guess that would be true about any type of transformation, right? There isn't really a set path. And so I think one thing I'd say here is just be cautious of comparison. So if you, let's say you have a really intuitive friend, someone that you just kind of track is really in tune, and they're telling you about all the transformation stuff that they're noticing or going through. And then you sit and think about it and you're like, I don't seem to be having that experience. Well, maybe I'm not transforming. Maybe I'm not transforming. Maybe I'm not going through it. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Nope. We don't know what it looks like with every single butterfly that transforms inside their chrysalis, but I'm guessing it's not exactly the same process for every single one of them, right? There's a general process that we can say caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly, and that's the general process. But what's happening inside of that chrysalis, we don't know. And are they all doing it the same way? Probably not. So it's important for you to understand that during this transformational process, during the changes that you're making, it's going to be a unique reflection of you, of everything that you've done in your experiences, all the ways you've healed yourself, all the trauma you had to go through, all the little specifics are definitely going to forge a unique path ahead. And so we don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing, because it actually isn't a reflection on what's going on for you. And although I find it fascinating to hear about what people are going through, just because I'm a curious person, I'm also aware enough of what's going on in myself that when I'm not having symptoms on a day someone else is, I'm not like, oh, I missed the boat. I don't think like that. I know it's very much individual, and they just want you to acknowledge for yourself that this transformation is very individual for yourself too. And again, I keep going back to the X-Men, and maybe it's because I'm a nerd, but in the X-Men, right? So if you're familiar with that series, everybody's a mutant of some sort, but they don't all mutate in the same way, right? Some were medically modified mutants like Wolverine, and others were, I'm guessing, caught in an electromagnetic field or something, became electrifying. I mean, every single one of them has different powers. And I think that's a great way to look at it, is that each one of us is transforming into something absolutely new and fantastic. And it's not going to look the same for each one of us. And that's okay, because it doesn't signal anything other than that you are a unique combination of genetics and experiences that create this version of transformation. All right, so now let's look at outcomes for the moon in Aries and Scorpio in the first house of self. All right, spiritual outcome at this time, the nurturing of energies to meet the challenge of the purification to resurrect who you are. This one gets me excited, because what it's basically saying here is that what's coming through is more you than you've ever been before. So that's why they were talking about before this, who do you think you are? Because there's a whole bunch of other stuff coming through that that's about to come online. And they do say that when we fully go through this transformation, when we go through this ascension, all of our memories come back, which means we're going to remember who we are before we were the person we are now. We're going to have all of that memory back, because it is stored within our own DNA. All of this information is already ours to access. But because of the nature of the plane that we're on, it was considered a cheat to be able to access it. You needed to have this feeling of nothing came before this. This is the first time in order to make more authentic choices, right? But now what they're saying is this, you, all of you, the rest of you, if you will, the bigger part of you is coming online, and it's asking you to sort of nurture this, right? So again, notice if you're putting limits on yourself of this is who I am, this is all that I am, because the universe is going, no, this is about this much of you. This pinky's worth that you're experiencing right now is what you think you are, but really here comes the hand and here comes the arm, and like there's just so much more of you about to come through, and you just want to nurture that in yourself. So what do they mean by nurture it? It's just simply allow that to be true. Whether you understand it fully or not, you don't need to. That was sort of the message of the team. It's a miracle. You don't have to understand the nature of a miracle, but nurture the idea that there's so much more to me than what I think I know, than what I'm consciously aware of. And that helps it come online more easily. It's like you're giving it a parking space in your brain. It needs that parking space. So open yourself up to that by nurturing these thoughts. All right. Mental outcome at this time, feelings caused by your desires regarding the secrets of your desires. That's one of those very fortune cookie type sayings here. So I feel like this is like the Rubik's Cube, or this is sort of an infinity mirror statement, if you will. As you consider thinking about how much more of you there actually is than what you're aware of, you might fall down that rabbit hole of pondering, like, just if this is only a part of who I am, who's the rest of me? What does the rest of me want, right? Kind of going into that sort of deeply introspective place where it's like, if I'm the tip of the iceberg, what else is underneath there? What does that want? And are we all in alignment? Is the whole thing in alignment? Or am I up here thinking one thing and the rest of me is on a totally different trajectory? It just talks about a depth of kind of going down the rabbit hole around yourself. All right. And physical outcome at this time, reactions resulting from the honesty and strength and power of your actions. So interestingly, what they're showing me is one of the major actions here is this allowing yourself to transform, or accepting that your transformation is completely unique to you and might not look like someone else's. And as you accept that, then it allows you to more authentically experience your own ascension journey at this time. And that just kind of brings up more stuff. Like they just show me this Russian nesting doll is like, as I break down my expectations or limitations, I am revealed a new piece. And as I experience this new piece, it causes me to take this action. And so it's like every action leads to a new response to it. So we're in this sort of calling it a hall of mirrors type feeling. It's like we're going deeper and deeper into levels of ourselves, into a sort of an unknown area, always trying to find an answer, but always finding more of ourselves. Right? And so that can be a little bit exhausting too. Especially if your goal is to get to the end of it, you're never going to get to the end of it, right? So this is where we bump up against that whole great mystery and how the source can never fully be known type thing, because the implication there of knowing something fully is that you've got it all. There's no more to experience. There's no more to know. I fully know it. And what they're trying to share with us is you can't fully know any of this, not even the depth of yourself. So the more you go in, the more you meet yourself, the more of you shows up, right? So that every time you take an action, more of you shows up, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought I just figured that out. And you're like, well, no, as you allowed yourself to go there, this new part unfolded. And so now there's more. And so this is where we practice letting go of outcomes, like this idea that there is an end. And in reality, there is no end. There's no end to this whole cycle. Even as we progress as a soul and move all the way up back into source, what happens there? Do we come back down and do it all over again? Is it another aspect of source? It can't fully be known. But what we do know is that it's eternal. And if it's eternal, then there is no end. So trying to get down to the bottom of it might be a fruitless task. That might actually cause us a little bit of discomfort or frustration. And so rather than thinking about it like that, it's like, how much of myself can I meet? Am I capable of meeting? Because, at a certain point, it's a little overwhelming and our brain can only process so much of who we are. All we can know, and maybe all we're supposed to hold here, is that this is what I think I know I am. And yet there's always more. And it's kind of like, there's always more. So I can always learn something new about myself. I can always find another layer to myself. And I think if we can get comfortable with that, then we can just enjoy the process, right? That there is no outcome that you're trying to get to here other than to enjoy meeting aspects of yourself and to maybe set yourself free from limits that you've created. It is sort of a convoluted time and energy, but it can also be a lot of fun. And when you let go of having to need to know how it works and just enjoy how it works, well, then it's actually quite an entertaining show. It's quite an entertaining experience. And so we have the choice with this week to either really get into the mystery, meaning that's kind of fun to meet a puzzle that can't fully be solved, or we can easily be frustrated by that, especially if we were just wanting to get down to the bottom of it. If you're just wanting to get down to the bottom of it, there is no bottom. And so therefore that could create frustration. But if you are just enjoying the fact that you're finding layers of it, well, that can be really fun. So with that, I'm sending you so much love. If you like this video, please comment, share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, because it really helps grow my channel. And I'm hoping to bring you more videos like this. So thank you so much. I'm sending you so much love. Mwah.